Hello folks, my name is the Kiwi Dragon and yes, it's real! We have a first trailer for a brand new Spyro game titled A Realm Beyond. The first wholly new Spyro game since 2008's The Legend of Spyro Dawn of the Dragon, and the first game since 2018's Spyro Reignited trilogy. God, has it really been almost 8 years since we got our hands on Reignited? My God. Anyway, still, so much for being dead, eh, Spyro?
Where the hell have you been?
Enjoying death.
But anyway, what can we learn from the first trailer and some of the additional information provided to us by Toys for Bob? What clues can they give us for the upcoming game? Let's see if we can find out. We start the trailer with the words "in a realm beyond." Now, of course, this goes toward referencing the title of the game, Spyro Realm Beyond, but I think we can also take it quite literally too. I think it means to suggest that the world that we see in this trailer is not somewhere that we've previously visited in any Spyro game. This isn't the Dragon Realms, Avalar, or even the Forgotten Realms, but somewhere completely new. We then pan down to see these little guys, a pair of birds with massive eyebrows. Unsure if these are significant or just appear to set the atmosphere of the trailer, but they're here, nuzzling against one another as a storm approaches. The duo and the rest of their kind run from the storm seemingly flightless. Reminds me of the mascot and namesake of my channel, the Kiwi, in a sense. But anyway, they run towards a small group of houses with some stone pillars nearby, perhaps a kind of small town or settlement that Spyro might visit, maybe? We see some birds fly overhead as the location is now completely enveloped in stormy darkness. As we fade to black, we fade back in to see a hidden figure clutching a staff. We can sort of make out their head slightly and see what appears to be spikes of some kind protruding from them, wearing what appears to be a cloak and having some horns atop their head, possibly. The hand clutching the staff has a sort of faint pinkish purple marking on it, while the top part of the staff, interestingly enough, is an almost crescent moon type shape with a floating shattered crystal or gem of some kind suspended in it. What is most ominous, though, is that the top part of the staff appears to be possibly made from a horn? Could it be the horn of a fallen dragon, even? We see some text saying, "A new evil rises." So who is this villainous creature? Perhaps I'll talk through some ideas about that in a future video, but right now I'm not too sure. But notice where this entity is placed. Those appear to be chains. Is this some kind of holding device used to keep that floating rock from going adrift? We then come to a desert location that somewhat reminds me of the Hazardous Wastes area in Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time, as well as various desert-themed locales from Spyro over the years. In particular, reminds me of Clifftown from Spyro 1. As the camera pans, we see some gems sitting on an overpass as the front leg of a familiar friend comes into view, along with the text, "A legendary hero," as our boy Spyro finally appears on screen, running, then charging for a bit of a boost as he begins to hover off the ground, and then, as the text suggests, soars into the sky among the clouds, ascending higher and pulling off a sick corkscrew as he seems to spot his destination with a look upon his face seemingly changing from confident to determined. Notice, by the way, that his face has changed somewhat since the Reignited trilogy, and his eyebrows have a bit more definition. Is this perhaps an older Spyro than what we last saw? We see the stormy weather from earlier in the trailer, as well as a rock formation in a similar shape to the staff wielded by the hidden entity earlier in the trailer, as we catch another glimpse of the floating rock held in place with chains. Perhaps this is the villain's lair? Meanwhile, Spyro's determined demeanor remains as he flies up for a bit of momentum before hurtling towards his destination, as the screen quickly cuts to black again and we see the logo fade in. Spyro, a realm beyond. And can we just talk briefly about that logo? That is an almost complete refresh of the logo, which we've seen in use since the Spyro Reignited trilogy launched back in 2018. The subtitle has a sort of similarly fantasy-like font, and the scale motif remains, but the logo is a lot more angled, sharper, and dare I say, a little jagged. The mohawk of spikes on the S is not entirely different from the one in the Reignited trilogy logo, but the tail spike, compared to the Reignited trilogy one, seems sharper, in keeping with the overall logo. I may be looking into it possibly a bit too deeply, but does this perhaps suggest that Spyro will be a little bit sharper than his younger counterparts seen in the Reignited trilogy, both in skill and intelligence? Perhaps this gives credence to my earlier thoughts that this might be an older Spyro. I love how as you go down the logo vertically, the scales seemingly disappear into a more darker, eerie purple. Maybe given the dark atmosphere of the trailer so far, could this also potentially suggest that the story this time might be a little darker than what we've seen of Spyro in the last few years? I do appreciate also the shape of the logo changing, the scaling of the letters becoming a bit more balanced to the one that it's adjacent to, almost like a set of steps. But my favourite addition in this new logo is the O, the little gem-shaped cutout in there, just so that you know that although things may appear to be changing a little, there are still some familiar and comforting elements of the past. And we also get to see some swirls fading in from the background that suggests to me that yes, this may be a Spyro with a bit of a darker tone than we saw in Reignited. We then flash back to some alpha gameplay footage of Spyro flying over some water under a bridge, shooting a fireball out of his mouth, very reminiscent of the Super Flame power-up from the Spyro games of the past. It hits its mark, a highlighted target of some kind, which we later see is a bonfire, as Spyro flies up to face another highlighted target, some sort of spinning object in the sky, and as he flames it, it causes it to explode, leaving behind some kind of mark which he flies through and gains a burst of speed from. Now initially I thought this was a speedway level when I first saw the trailer, but given how we've seen a lot of flying in this trailer, and there being a mention of the word soar earlier on in the trailer, I'm more inclined to think that this game will give us a kind of free flight system, but not necessarily one that may be permanently available, but maybe requires recharging over time perhaps, and that the target in the sky is kind of like a momentum system that keeps Spyro going airborne while giving a zip of speed maybe? Additionally, if we look at the location that Spyro is flying in, it appears to be massive. I'm not sure if this is a homeworld of sorts or perhaps even one of the levels, but a kind of free flight system would make sense in this large scale environment, as there would be a lot of ground to cover, and as we can see here, some elements of verticality. And then the trailer ends with the release date and the supported consoles, with it coming to Xbox Series X and S, as well as Xbox on PC and Xbox Cloud, which makes sense given that Activision owns the rights to Spyro, and of course they were acquired by Microsoft a few years ago. But if you have no Xbox consoles on hand, then worry not, as the game will also arrive on PS5, Nintendo Switch 2, and Steam, which goes a long way to proving that we as fans needn't have been worried about Xbox making future Spyro and even Crash Bandicoot titles exclusive to just Microsoft-owned consoles and devices. I will say though that it is a refreshing change of pace to see it suggested that Switch 2 and Steam will release around the same time as PS5 and Xbox Series, given that in the past when we had games on Switch 1 and Steam, they usually arrived later than their Sony and Microsoft-owned counterparts, typically a year or so later. This was the case for the Reignited trilogy, which was on PS4 and Xbox One in 2018, and then released on Switch and Steam in 2019. Speaking of PS4 and Xbox One, neither will support the game, which makes sense really. Xbox, of course, stopped supporting new first-party titles for the Xbox One in 2023, while the PS4 is slowly winding down development of games, with many new titles being PS5 exclusive. So if you don't have one of these newer consoles, you have until the game releases at some point in spring 2027 to buy one. Additionally, the game will also release on Xbox Game Pass on day one, so if you have a Game Pass subscription, you'll be able to enjoy it that way. So, that's the trailer, mined for information and possible clues. What else can we turn to find some more information about Spyro: A Realm Beyond? We turn to the description of the trailer on YouTube, which gives us an interesting plot outline. When Spyro finds himself stranded, his journey to discover a way home is interrupted by the arrival of a vicious invading force known as the Scavs. Spyro must make new allies and rise to protect this realm before it's changed forever. Feel the freedom of flight as you soar above vibrant landscapes, weave between treetops, dive off massive landmarks, and wing your way through this new realm in Spyro's boldest evolution yet. Carve your path through the skies and chain together dives, climbs, and tight turns as you navigate the world your way. Crafted by Toys for Bob, this is a new evolution of Spyro, built to send the purple dragon soaring higher than ever before. Okay, so what did we get from this? Well, first of all, Spyro is stranded somewhere, which kind of makes sense given his adventurous nature. And of course, he will face new enemies known as Scavs. No Norks, Rhinox, or Riptox here. I wonder if maybe Scavs might be short for scavengers, perhaps. Maybe that's part of the plot line, an army of scavengers. Anyway, Spyro will make new friends along his journey, which may possibly rule out the returns of old friends like Hunter, Bianca, Elora, and the Professor, which, if that's the case, I'd be a little disappointed with, but at the same time, not relying on the same cast and introducing new friends could be a bold new move for the series. I would, though, really hope for the return of at least one friend to accompany Spyro, maybe. And then we get to the bit about freedom of flight, seemingly confirming that yes, Spyro: A Realm Beyond will see our purple boy actually being able to fly at will. Will it be unrestricted or on a momentum system like I mentioned earlier? I'm not entirely sure, but it does go to suggest that you can chain dives, climbs, and tight turns. I wonder what the benefits of chaining such maneuvers would be. And of course, it mentioned crafted by Toys for Bob, this is a new evolution of Spyro, built to send the purple dragon soaring higher than ever before. Well, it certainly seems that we'll be climbing to heights previously not reached by the classic version of Spyro. And of course, Toys for Bob are back at the helm after handling the Reignited trilogy all those years ago. I know that Reignited had some issues, but I really hope that this time TFB can pull off a Spyro game that can stand alongside some of the classic heavy hitters of yesteryear. In addition to the plot outline and the YouTube description, we find a bit more info from an Activision blog post, our final source for today, written by the folks at Toys for Bob, which states, "At Toys for Bob, Spyro has always held a special place in our hearts. We've shared a long history with the little purple dragon, from the spark that inspired Skylanders to his triumphant return in the Reignited remakes. Our deep love of Spyro is rooted in his character. Despite his diminutive size, he takes on oversized odds and succeeds in the end. Like him, our team is small but mighty. That spirit has guided us to step out into new territory and pour our heart, passion, and ambition into crafting something truly new, an original new chapter for Spyro that we've been passionately building toward all along. A game for the community that has loved him for decades, and a whole generation of players discovering him for the first time. The courage to soar to new heights through the unknown is at the heart of Spyro: A Realm Beyond." Toys for Bob certainly aren't wrong here. They've been with Spyro on and off since 2011's Skylanders Spyro's Adventure, all the way up to the most recent Reignited trilogy in 2018. These folks love Spyro in all forms and are fans much like us. They even relate to him and his size, given how they're now a much smaller development team than they were back in the Reignited days as a result of the layoffs that happened in January 2024 and spun off to become independent, smaller developers in May of that same year, becoming a more nimble development studio that has partnered with Microsoft to create independent games, the first of which being Spyro Realm Beyond. I must say I love the parts about making not only a game for the community that has loved him for decades, but also new generations of players discovering him for the first time. To use my own experience as an example, I've played Spyro games ever since I played the originals with my cousin on his PS1, and later got a copy of Season of Ice somewhere around 2001 or 2002, and it's remained for a long time one of my favourite video game series. However, more recently, my eldest niece, who's soon to turn 10, has started playing games on her very own Nintendo Switch Lite, and one of the games I picked up for her on sale was the Spyro Reignited trilogy. As having fond memories of playing the originals with my cousin as a kid, I'd hoped I could pass that enjoyment on to her, and wouldn't you know, she absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait to show her the trailer for this game the next time I see her. We then carry on to the next part, which reads, "From the very start of this development journey, our team was inspired to ask, what might a bold evolution for the series look like? How might Spyro soar to new heights? We knew that this dragon and community deserved a worthy follow-up that did a whole lot more than just rehash nostalgia. So we spent a lot of time exploring new mechanics that would extend and transform the core Spyro flow state, that zen-like feeling of seamlessly charging, jumping and gliding through whimsical dreamlike worlds chasing the next shiny gem. That line of discovery led us to one important conclusion. Spyro deserves to truly soar. Not just a glide, not just a limited set of flight levels, but true dragon flight. This became the guiding light of our aspirations. Bring the full power, speed, and control of dragon flight to the Spyro experience. Even in our earliest prototypes, being able to take to the skies at a moment's notice to break through the clouds, weave through the branches of colossal trees, and dive off sky-scraping aqueducts was immediately exhilarating to everyone who experienced it, and a huge confirmation that this was the right dream to chase. This is what it means for Spyro to soar to new heights. Honestly, I was never really sold on free flight in Spyro. For years, it's one of those things that I've had people try to convince me that the series should do. I've even had some of you in my YouTube comment sections in days gone by telling me as such. But to me, it just didn't feel right. Perhaps I needed that visual of the trailer, even though, for the most part, it was just a cinematic, to try to convince me that this is the next step, the natural evolution of Spyro, and that the alpha gameplay footage supports the idea well, showcasing wide open levels with lots of verticality. I just want to know whether it has any limitations, like the momentum system I mentioned before, or whether it's just a case of simply pick up and go. The fact that there has been feedback from those who have played it which suggests that people have enjoyed this change certainly fills me with optimism though. Toys for Bob go on to conclude with this. At Toys for Bob, we are first and foremost Spyro fans. For years, we've wanted to see Spyro achieve a future worthy of his legacy. Not just a brief return, but an impressive new chapter that feels bigger, freer, and more alive than ever before. This is the game we've desperately been wanting to play ourselves, and we couldn't be more excited to finally share this ambition with the world. Through the bravery and boldness of venturing into the unknown as a small independent studio, our team poured more than 3 decades of love, passion, and soul into building the game we've always wanted to make. Much like Spyro himself, this is not a story about starting over. It's about building the next chapter on a strong foundation with more fire in our bellies and more passion in our hearts than ever before. For long-time fans, we hope it recaptures that irreplaceable feeling of comfort flowing through levels in search of treasure. For newcomers, we hope it introduces you to one of gaming's most beloved heroes. Today is just the first glimpse. There's so much more to show in the months ahead, and we cannot wait to reveal more. If we've piqued your curiosity, please wishlist the game, spread the word, and get ready to soar. Spyro is back. Wow, what a poignant way to end. As I said earlier on, these folks are fans, much like me and yourselves watching at home. They have seemingly poured their hearts and souls into the development of this game, and it certainly sounds promising. While the cinematics and alpha footage look gorgeously enticing. As someone who's been with these games for over 20 years, it's wonderful to hear them say, this isn't about starting over or rebooting Spyro, it's about making sure this game earns the right to be part of that legacy, and that they are not only focused on fans like me, but also new fans as well. And to hear the way they say they feel so passionately about building this next chapter speaks volumes, coming off of the back of their previous title, Crash Team Rumble, which I'm sure they were passionate about, but if you ask me and many others, never quite fully lived up to its potential as a game and maybe was given some unfair treatment in some respects. But hey, I know this was only the first glimpse, but I'll tell you this, I am itching for more, and yes, Toys for Bob, if you're listening, you've certainly piqued my curiosity, and this will be going right on my wish lists after I finish recording this video. However, Toys for Bob, I have two big questions for you if you are watching. Number one, we know that Tom Kenny is coming back as Spyro. We could hear his voice in the cinematic trailer. But I want to know, have you got the master, Stuart Copeland, coming back to make music for this game? Please tell me you do. And number two, just very quickly, where is Sparks? Is Sparks okay?
Where is he?
But anyway, that is everything we've learned so far, not only from the trailer itself, but also from the plot outline on YouTube and the Activision blog post written by Toys for Bob. What do you make of the game so far, and what do you want to see from this brand new Spyro game? Drop me a comment down below with your hopes for what you'd want to see in Spyro: A Realm Beyond. Man, I'm just getting excited just saying that name. But anyway, that's going to be it for me for now. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to click the like button and subscribe with the bell icon to be notified about future Spyro: A Realm Beyond videos from me. Until then, though, stay safe, have yourselves a good day, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.